a dumpster dive, and humans forget how to thrive. Take a break, just you and me, with a puppy and kitten, wild and free. Paws and purrs, let's drift away to a land where tails wag and play. No more noise, just gentle muse in our furry four-legged cruise.
Hey, you guys.
I was loving that.
Yeah, it was just a short one because I was doing all of those sentencings that one week, and I was like, look, I'm gonna need a puppy kitten break, or I'm gonna start learning how to weld. And I'm not sure that me learning how to weld is a good idea when my sole, wanting to weld was for, making a killdozer. We are going to address the very sad, tragic news that just broke here. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, regardless of whether you agreed or disagreed with this man's political, philosophy, whether you agreed with who he voted for or who he didn't deserve to leave his wife and children behind in such a tragic way.
Yeah.
And it's broken my heart. I'm not going to get fully into it, but I've been where his wife is now. Having to deal with this very reality, not in the same circumstance, but I can tell you that it rips the gravity away. It rips the oxygen out of your world. And I would never wish that on anyone.
No.
To go through this. So.
Yeah. And at this point, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on these kinds of things. It's tragic and it's horrible. And, anybody that's glorifying it can just go find a hole and bury themselves in it for all I care. Even my wife, which doesn't agree with Charlie Kirk at all whatsoever, was just like the what is up with the world? Why is it going so crazy? And you answer that question and you've probably answered it all. You can speculate all you want to, but it's a horrible tragedy that somebody had to do something to, not just to him, but to his family and the people that he's touched over the years. And it is absolutely tragic.
Yeah. And, I've just been I had been completely not focused on anything. Okay, in full confession of how absolutely weird I am, I was listening to those AI, Reddit like drama stories because I can just put them on and kind of zone out.
Yeah.
And kind of work on all of my notes for the documents today. So I was going through like what we can skip through.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't until I was getting back on my computer that I even saw any of this. And I thought, wow. Again, it just kind of took me back to the day where and not to make it about me, but I know what that feels like. I know when your life has a distinctive before and after line, and God, do I never want anyone else to have to deal with that. And now someone else is having to, and in such public,
yes.
Arenas. Not even with, the sort of no one knows me so I can lick my wounds in private, not that I like, that's another channel that I do that on.
Hey, if you guys haven't seen that channel where she's licking her wounds, it's pretty hot, just saying.
It bring bassitration or bassitration. It's gonna get weird in here. But yeah, so it very much did touch, my heart. And I do hope that she is just being surrounded by support, by love. And
the kids too.
Yeah, it's just the sucktastic knowledge that nothing's going to make this better, which is just a thing. Now, for 121, this is just a oh, and by the way, if you are new here, neither Shizzy and I paid much attention to the Bryan Kohberger case, as noted by my incorrect spelling of his name earlier on, because I wanted to have an open mind, and so did Shizzy, about what was going on. And I think we were talking about it before, when we didn't have any of the documents and they were being very tight-lipped, I think there was a lot of speculation as to why and how Kohberger even got sort of roped into this.
Yeah.
So,
And Mo and I actually were talking about this backstage, and I confessed to her whenever I first saw this, I was looking at it like, why are they after this guy? I mean, sure, he's quirky or whatever, but this guy
it
looks
did seem
innocent to
very
me.
random. It did seem because they weren't giving out much information about what linked him or what all they had. So it's like, okay, so they just found this random guy
That was
and they're telling
nearby.
us, yeah, and they're telling us for real guys, we've got a lot on this. And
Yeah, and like I said, it wasn't something that just sort of, to the discerning eye that's, like not involved in the case. We're talking about people on the outside of this. They're looking at it, and without seeing these documents, you don't understand the level of scrutiny that they were going through, not only on Bryan, but on themselves. Because this was something that they were actively looking at, and trying to find a link, anything. They had multiple suspects. I mean, pretty much
yeah,
everybody at the beginning was a suspect. I mean, even including the people that were active in that house. But
well,
it
yeah,
wasn't, and so the amount of the amount of false stories that you heard coming out of this is just like, well, it had to be the bartender. They ruined his life. I mean, there was so
yeah, the
much.
Grubhub or the Grub Truck guy. Then
Yes.
all these guys who were labeled as weird, from near the Grub Truck, from, the bar. And you know, of course, they have to be checked out. The
Yeah.
police can't say, "Oh, well, they just said it was a creepy guy. We'll ignore this one and go after this guy." From what we've seen, and we're 122 documents in, this wasn't just a random thing. It wasn't something where they simply just looked at Bryan Kohberger and said, "Okay, he looks, different. He looks, and people have had issues with him, like personnel wise, and complaints wise at the university." It's not like they went and said, "Find me a weird person we can pin this on."
Right. And I mean, I used to sit there and tease, Meme Copium, because Meme Copium is tall like him, lanky, has sort of a little bit of the same facial features, except Meme is much more chill. And I would tease, I was like, Meme, this must be you. Because I mean, and we would joke back and forth. And the thing is, even Meme looking at this is like, I just don't see the link on this. I mean, this was something that we had talked about. And once the investigation was full underway, and it wasn't until I was actually looking to cover this trial. Both Mo and I, unbeknownst to each other, we were looking to cover this trial, just probably from a different aspect. And it wasn't until he pled guilty, that Mo and I we were been talking about doing the Disturbed stuff, and we started talking about the Kohberger, that she said, "Hey, I've got all these documents. It looks like there's not going to be a trial because this is done and over with. He's pled guilty." And I actually hadn't even known that he pled guilty. I was like, whoa, wait, back up. He pled guilty? I mean, so if he's pled guilty, it's not that he was forced to plead guilty, because those are questions that the judge asks whenever you're submitting a guilty plea. That's one of those things that you're doing voluntarily. That means that he doesn't want to go through the hassle of a trial, because if you're
Yeah,
innocent, it doesn't matter how long that trial takes. You are going to
no.
want to be there for that trial.
Well, and they do start, as I was taking notes and going all the way through up to 167, they are going to include things that the defense is pulling. So, and from what I've heard, he had a fairly competent defense team.
Oh yeah, yeah, they were very competent. They were, if I'm not mistaken, they were able to get quite a few things that weren't going to be admitted into evidence.
Yeah,
And
so
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
it does seem like, again, I am willing to entertain that this is all underwater, upside down, backwards, conspiracity. I am willing to entertain that. But I do require or ask that there's evidence that goes with it.
Yes.
And to
Not
the
not
two that
not not
got
YouTube
really,
evidence, completely
yeah,
different. Not
well,
somebody saying,
yeah,
well, somebody told me that somebody said, and this is what somebody else said. No,
yeah.
give me the proof of it. If you're sitting there saying, well, there's an inside that he's saying he was completely innocent, well, show me a signed affidavit where they're saying this. you know
Well,
the
and
you know
we don't have a dog in this fight yet. We
mm-mm.
are simply looking at documents. We're not here to. So there you go. That's us in a nutshell. We didn't come here with an agenda. We're reading documents and looking at how this investigation played out because we didn't get to find out. This all would have come out in a trial. Now maybe not the minutia of all the documents, but a lot of this would have come out in trial. So we are simply looking at the case that the state was working on building, and hopefully one day the FBI notes will be free to the public as well, and possibly, the DAs, the because this is just from the police documents. This isn't what the DA investigators did, what the FBI. Hopefully that comes out too, and we can get more links.
Yes, yes, and I wait to see those. Those would be great.
Yes. So this is from a phone interview with KE&A, having to do with, it looks like this is having to do with a tip that was labeled 157. Now, 157 is going to come up again. It's not quite in sort of chronological order, but we are going to get 157. So I did want to kind of, bring that up. Narrative? Go ahead.
On 1/18/2023, I spoke with K.A. B.A. reference a suspicious occurrence that she and I believe that's an E
E.
remembered at 1122, the address. I
Yes.
called Kate and asked her what she remembered. Kate told me that she came to Moscow to celebrate her E birthday on a certain date. Kaylee had planned a party for E at that address, the murder site, that evening. Kay stated several people, to include Conclaves and E, were on the back patio during the party. Conclave's dog Murphy was also present. Kay stated Murphy ran up to the bushes behind the house on several occasions and would not return when called. Kay stated they called Murphy numerous times before he would come back. Kay told me the group eventually went inside and shut the door. This was the only occurrence Kay was present, but told me E remembered that there were similar occasions. And that is interesting. I called E
Yeah.
on 119, referenced these occurrences. E also related the occasion on her birthday and added it was unlike Murphy to not immediately return home when called, which was the reason why she and Conclaves were concerned about someone being behind the house when Murphy would behave in this manner. E told me about another occasion on 10/29 during which she was at the bad house for a Halloween party. E told me Mogan, Conclaves, Kernoodle, and Chapel were all present at the party. During the party, E stated the group gathered at the back patio once again, and Murphy began to run into the wood line behind the house and not come back. E told me they heard noises too. She described those noises as similar to what it would sound like if someone was moving through the woods on foot. This occasion took place midday, and they did not see anyone behind the house. However, Murphy's behavior and the noises caused them to go inside and close the door. It would me too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
if I was, me, because I have a few of those things that got lost in the lake, more than
Yeah.
likely would have shown back up out there and would have went searching for whatever it was that was causing my dog to get a little freaked out and try to discover it. I understand that they probably didn't have that ability, and they were probably just more
Well, and they
concerned.
were probably freaked out. And there's a difference when, I mean, even though you use a step stool, you do have testosterone. So if you go out, you know,
Yes.
it, but there's also, I mean, if my daughter called me and said, "Hey, the dog's acting really funny. Should go inside and call security, or should I go out and check it on my own?" I would
Tell her to
say,
call
"Have we
security.
not watched enough horror movies? Okay, that's it. You have a goal. You are watching Law and Order SVU until you are sufficiently afraid of everyone you run into."
Oh, remember that it took place approximately 2 weeks prior to the homicides. He was unsure of the date. He stated Murphy displayed similar behavior of running into the woods and not coming back when called, and it could have been just as simple as a squirrel. He also
Yeah,
recalled an occurrence during which the same time frame, exact date unknown, wherein she said Conclaves returned to the bad house and found the rear sliding door standing open and Murphy was missing. He stated they had to go out and look for Murphy after they found the door open. I asked E if it was common for people who didn't live at that address to walk in when no one was home. He stated it was not uncommon, and added members of a group and several friends of the females who lived there would come and go at will. I thanked Eve for her time and concluded our interview after advising her to call me if she remembered anything new. Well, and that's really interesting because
yeah,
it could be nothing. It could just be simply, a boyfriend came over, didn't close the door far enough because he was looking to get a little bit of iron noogie noogie,
well,
and didn't
yeah.
close the door. The dog got out. He went out the front door, and she came home and it's like, oh my God, my dog's gone, and went searching for it. It could have been absolutely nothing.
Well, yeah, and it does sound like, and looking back at it, I don't think I would have been as security minded, if it
Right.
was like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna leave the back door unlocked. Like, I'm going to class if y'all want to crash until we." So again,
Yeah.
all these things that you're trying to look back, and as a detective, you don't know, is this something?
Right.
Was it just a dog being a dog and teenagers being, or, college students being college students? But these are all things that they had to run down, that they had to look at.
Right. And that it is very important to put this into consideration. That's why these questions are being asked of is there a possibility? Yeah, there was boyfriends that would come and go, there or girlfriends or whatever, these people would come and go, and there was no point in locking the door. Nobody's wanting to do any harm to us. It's just like
Yeah.
we're college students, we're broke. I mean, what are they going to do? Take our computer? They know that it's not, where are they going to pawn it at? There's no place nearby that they're going to be able to pawn it that they don't get caught. So, I mean, they're just sort of pretty much left alone. It's one of
Well,
those kinds of neighborhoods where you could leave your door unlocked at night and not really worry about it.
yeah. And I mean, you're stealing from college students. I mean, the latest IKEA season is very fashionable.
Oh, yes.
So this, I am going to kind of read through it because it's another initial response.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's where they're getting into crime scene now, how they divvied that up and things like that. This is initial response Captain Barrett on 11/13/2022 at around 1200 hours. I received a phone call from Sergeant Gunderson informing me his team had responded to a call at 1122 King Road where they found 4 deceased college-age individuals inside the residence. He said it was apparent that they had been murdered. Sergeant Gunderson said they did not know the location or identity of the suspect. Sergeant Gunderson said his team had cleared the residence and secured the scene. He said he had identified a group of college-aged individuals outside the residence and had started interviewing them. I called Chief Fry, Captain Lanier, and Captain Dollinger to let them know about the homicide. I let Detective Sergeant Lawrence know. I told him about the homicide and asked him to call in detectives. Sergeant Lawrence said that he would call in Sergeant Blaker and Corporal Payne to assist as well. So this is already logistically probably one of the biggest all hands on deck that this police department has had.
Yeah. And I don't suspect they're a very large police department. That's why
No.
getting the state police involved is going to help in those investigations. And if the state police, is coming in there saying, "Listen, this is even beyond our scope," is why they would get the FBI involved in it.
Yeah, so we do have more of the picture, but we don't have the full picture because, the FBI and getting FOIA documents from them and then the state police, while they are required to at points make these things available to the public, they all have different kind of root standard operating procedures, how
Right.
long they hold things. So once those do become available, we will dig into those, but right now we are getting a little bit more of the, picture.
Yes. And the
And then,
picture's pretty bleak.
yeah, and Sergeant Lawyer Lawrence said that he was also calling in the Idaho State Police to ask for Region 2 detectives to process the crime scene. I called BE, U of E, Dean of Students, and BL with U of I, Office of Public Safety and Security, to inform them of the homicide because the residence was near the U of I campus and the victims appeared to be college students. And there's another level that people don't realize. They have to also then coordinate with the college to let them know that there is a threat level now that's established and how the
Right.
college is going to coordinate that so you don't have a panic, you know? Because as soon
Mhm.
as they release this information, I'm sure every parent, because God knows I would be calling my child and making sure they're okay. So that's going to clog up cell towers and things like that. You're going to have an influx of parents trying to just, we're coming, we're getting you, you're coming home. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and you see the same thing happen at, I think it wasn't too long ago. There was a elementary school shooting where the parents were showing up almost immediately as soon as the alert went out. And if there's an active shooter in the area, they won't release the
yeah,
kids. They have to eliminate all the threats in that area. And they won't release the kids until you know,
no. And it's
yeah,
hard to understand when you are emotional, when you get this text from your child and your heart's racing, because logically you can sit back and say that makes total sense. But in that moment, I'm sure these parents just wanted to have their children.
yes.
So w- let's see. When I arrived on scene, I met with Sergeant Gunderson and Sergeant Lawrence on the street in front of the residence. We briefly discussed the scene, and I was given the name of the 4 individuals who were killed: Ethan Chapin, Xana Canoodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gunclavies. I was also told of 2 witnesses outside, DM and BF, that were roommates and apparently inside the residence when the incident occurred. Sergeant Gunderson told me a dog was taken out of Kaylee Gunclavy's room and transported to the Humane Society for safekeeping. He told me it didn't appear that the dog had gone into any of the rooms where anything had happened, because he didn't have any visible signs like blood stains or any paw prints. I mean, we have kind of glossed over this, but these were incredibly bloody and violent scenes in some
Yes.
in some cases. And and that's not what this stream is about. It's not about the gory details. It's more
No.
just honestly, Shizzy and I were really kind of curious about what the case was, what we were going to see at trial. Let's see here. I contacted U of I Dean E, gave him the victims' names, and asked if he could verify if they were students. He contacted me later and confirmed that all 4 were students, but didn't have any emergency or contact information for them other than their permanent addresses.
Well, and I hope that if you do have college kids that are going off to school, that you have some that you make sure they fill out that emergency contact information,
Yeah,
because things can change at the blink of an eye. And I mean, I go back to someone, a cousin that I lost not too long ago. Well, it's been quite a while back, but she had finished her graduate school, and she was hit by her one of her professors in a DUI, and deleted her. She luckily they had her emergency information, and they were contacted pretty immediately. And my aunt and uncle were able to go meet with you know with people there to get it all straightened out. It was a big mess, but it's having that emergency contact is really important.
Yeah, because it gets things going, and while you wouldn't think that would be comforting, having something to do, having kind of a next step, and everyone I've ever worked with in kind of the funerary services have all been very sweet but very competent people.
Yes.
I'm sure there's bad apples. I
Yes.
usually have them on mornings with Mo. And
Yes, you do.
yes, but everyone that I have met have been very kind and very understanding of, what different people need. They seem to be able to understand because they deal with it so often. Those of us who need something to do, and they're kind of able to give that. And then the people that need comfort, they can do that. So I will say that they are the kind of unsung heroes of that part of stuff.
Yes.
So at 1:04, the University of Idaho sent out a vandal alert via text message regarding the homicide. So I guess vandal might be like their school
Like an Amber
alert
Alert kind
system.
of thing. Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering, is the University of Idaho the Vandals or something
It
for their
could be.
sports balls?
Could be. I don't know. I'll search that while you continue to read.
At 1:30, we moved the witnesses who I believe were also students that patrol identified on King Road to Moscow Police Department training room. I met with Sergeant Lawrence, Sergeant Blaker, Corporal Payne, and Detective Mowry and asked them to start interviewing each person. I also met with CF, U of I Associate Dean of Students at the police department. I talked to her earlier about having the students come to the police department to be interviewed. F had an assistant with her, and they were there to comfort the students and be a resource if necessary. While I was in the training room, I was told that two of the witnesses were Ethan Chapin's blank and blank M and H. They told me that their parents had been informed of Ethan's death and that they were on their way to Moscow. I asked Sergeant Lawrence to arrange death notifications for Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogan's parents, and he later informed me that the Kootenai deputies went to the Goncalves home to notify them, and they had already been made aware.
I'm sorry.
Captive,
I'm laughing at the Kootenai.
well, is it Kootenai? Look, I said it.
I still like Kootenai. That's pretty good.
Well, look, I'm part dyslexic, part ADHD, so if I don't know a word, I will make up my
I
own.
like the Kootenai. Oh, and it is the Vandals. Yes, it refers to
Okay.
University of Idaho's athletic teams, which are based in Moscow, Idaho. Sorry, the team's name was coined in 1917 after the basketball team played with such ferocity that the sports writers said they vandalized their opponents.
Oh, okay. Well, I was like, I don't think they're the Volunteers. I think that's a Tennessee one. Because,
Yeah,
I only know like one sports ball team, and it's the one my friends know just because I'm like, wait, they talk about them all the time.
Oh, come on. You
Some,
don't know the Georgia Bulldogs? Come on.
no, can't say
Oh,
as I do.
well, Georgia Bulldogs is playing Tennessee next
Hey,
weekend. So that should be
I
an
have
interesting Saturday.
never felt closer to being a real Georgian than yesterday when I thought it was Wednesday and tried to cancel our stream. And you were like, sweetheart, it is Tuesday, so you're fine.
You're good. You're good. And she was just like, oh, okay.
I was
We're
like,
good.
well, I feel dumb because I've already put out a community post about it.
Oh, well, at least they knew
Let's
you
see.
weren't streaming last night.
There you go. Captain Dollinger told me that he had met with Xana Cornudo's father, Jay, on scene, and he had asked Jay to meet him at the police department where he informed him of Xana's passing. Sergeant Lawrence said that a Coeur d'Alene officer went to S and K and L's house to notify them of Madison's passing. K is Madison's blank. Sergeant Lawrence was informed that L had been informed and they were already on their way to Moscow. When L arrived at the police department, I did the death notification and asked Sergeant Lawrence to interview them. At 2:15, I met with President S.G. and his staff in his campus office. I told them about the homicide and that the suspect's location and identity remained unknown. I returned to the police department and JD approached me asking if I could release the dog Murphy to him. He said he and Kaylee both owned the dog. At that point, I was busy working with detectives and administration and didn't release the dog. I talked to Corporal Payne, who had interviewed JD, and he said that D had been in a relationship with Kaylee Goncalves, indicating they had broken up a few months ago. Corporal Payne said that D told him he and Goncalves had remained friends after the breakup. I asked about the dog that had been removed from the residence and taken into the animal shelter. Corporal Payne said D told him that he and Kaylee both owned the dog. Now later that afternoon, D approached me again and asked if I could release the dog to him. I called Captain Lanier, who was with Sergeant Gunderson outside of the home, and he confirmed with Sergeant Gunderson that they understood that D co-owned the dog and the dog had been taken to the animal shelter. And the dog was uninjured, didn't have any blood, so a very small mercy in this horrible case.
Yes. Yeah, well, and also it means that, they could have actually, if there would have been blood, for example, on the dog, they probably would have held the dog until they could collect blood samples off of the dog and make sure that there wasn't any trace evidence in case, this person injured themselves in the process, wiped their hand on the dog, then you've got some DNA. So that may be why they were just like, it was fine to release him.
Yeah, and I agreed to release Murphy to D because it was my understanding we had only taken the dog into custody for safekeeping and he was an owner. I asked to have a patrol officer meet D at the animal shelter to release the dog. So, again, a small mercy. And for the school staff that went in, yes, I do understand it's part of their function, but also to provide comfort to these parents. I'm sure they stayed there as the parents started coming in to try to offer comfort and support.
Well, and a little bit of direction of where things are at and what's going on, because I can only imagine you're a parent, you hear about this horrible tragedy that happens, you drive who knows how many miles to get to your child, and knowing that something horrible has happened. Immediately you're going to want to see your child because you want to make sure they're okay. At this point, the staff is able to say, listen, we don't have enough information right now. We don't have a suspect, and sort of get them toned down so they're calm and relaxed whenever they're being asked questions and not in a stress or a high anxiety level dealing with the police, because they're already going to be in a high anxiety level dealing with police.
And this is going to have so many moving parts, someone that can kind of say, okay, we are giving this our highest priority, but we have to do a slow and methodical job. We can't run in there like, urban cowboy, or was it? Yeah,
guns blazing. You can't do it.
You can't. We have to, we want to find them just as much as you do. So we have to do this right.
Right.
And I'm sure that, again, because when you are in that parent mode, I'm like, I don't care what the flip you have to do. I want my child. So having someone that can kind of explain it in a way that's not condescending, but sensitive and able to kind of make it easier to digest for people who may or may not have had any sort of entanglement with police or the criminal justice system before now.
Right.
Because I am sure that the parents felt, and we saw some of that frustration. Justice, we know from being law nerds, takes a long time. But when it's your family and very humanly, I would presume,
Oh yeah.
it takes forever. Why is this going so slow? Why are we listening to anything that this douche canoe has to say? I mean, these are very human things I would think that any victim's family would feel, with the all the hearings and, due process checks and all of this.
Well, and they do understand whenever they can take that step back, and this is sort of that buffer to give them that step back, because once you can explain to them, it's just like, we don't have enough information, but if we do catch this person, anything that we can gather, if it's spoiled, it just takes twice as long to do it. It takes twice as long and there's a possibility that if we do catch them, that this person could walk if we spoil the crime scene, for example. I know you want to get in there and you want to hold your daughter's favorite teddy bear, but here's the thing. That could be evidence. We can't release any of this, and we're not doing it to be mean or cruel. We're doing this to make sure that if there's any trace DNA, that we can get it. So we make sure we get the right person, that we don't make a mistake where it's going to cost us down the road, a year or 2 years down the road, and find out, oh, we got the wrong person. Narrative.
Yeah,
Friends.
so this is kind of an interesting, so this is going to be, they went and canvassed the area, the friends and family, so all the things. Now, this might have been a function to give
Oh,
the family something functional to do, since they,
no. This is actually really good. More than just doing something to do. This is what this does is, and I'll use this as an example. If my wife walks into her house, and she looks around and she sees something that's out of place, it raises red flags. It could be something simple
your
as,
point.
like, why is this painting on this wall? Why is there a briefcase there? That we don't have any briefcases in our house. I mean, something will trigger it, and this is a good reason to do like a canvas, do a walkthrough. Is there anything missing? And they may say, no, there's nothing missing that I notice, or they could say, why is there an extra picture of my daughter there? That's not a picture that I know of.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. I was
Yeah.
thinking, I do like to be in motion. I like to have something to do, and I'm guessing some of the parents might be like that. So I thought maybe they were having them go through and say, "Hey, does any of this look like your kids?" But also have something, you're out, you're doing something, you feel like you're contributing as well.
Well, and that could be it all. And that also does give them a good exercise. Tammy Bugard, good to see you. And yes, Jason J, we did notice that Charlie Kirk had passed. If you want to rewind back to the very beginning of the stream where Mo discusses this.
Yeah, I haven't been paying attention to X, so if they caught this person,
Oh,
I'm
they
not
caught him
sure.
immediately. Yeah, they caught
Well,
him
but they said
immediately.
that was the wrong person. Or
Oh, I don't know.
so
See, I wasn't covering that closely. Do hear. I had heard that they had caught somebody, and were, but they had, they weren't accusing. They were just saying we've got somebody in custody. So if they've actually got the guy, then that's good to know.
Well, and that's why I often don't cover things right as they break, because a lot of it is, and it feels gut-wrenching to have to use this kind of term, but fog of war.
Yes.
There's so many people wanting to be first and wanting to get all of the information, but I like to kind of let you guys know, verified facts, because I feel bad when I get something wrong or tell you guys. So I
Right.
don't actively attempt to do, like random
Well,
wrongness.
and I mean, I was cooking dinner, talking with my wife, and she, well, before she came out, she goes, "Did you hear that Charlie Kirk had passed?" And I said, "Why? Are you sure that that's true? Because from what I understand, that he had been shot, and it's pretty gruesome. Are you positive you're just not getting that he had been shot, and she said, no, this is in that he has passed. I mean, those are the kinds of things I could have gotten on and done a stream beforehand and talked to you guys about this, but I didn't have any information on it other
Yeah.
than he had been shot.
Yeah.
What
So,
is it? Turning Point USA conference. Yes. So it's horrible. It's a horrible thing. And I'll probably, cover a little bit of that. We might cover some of that Friday. I don't know. We'd like to keep it a little bit light.
yeah, I'll probably cover it tomorrow in Mornings with Mo. But yeah, it's just so we are, here for a specific reason. We did,
Yes.
but it is the elephant in the room. But I'm probably just waiting for more information to come out and for kind of the news to settle, because sometimes I feel like we're so 24-hour news cycle that we don't let stories that really hurt us breathe, because they do hurt us.
Right.
Or, stories don't stay as important as maybe they should, because we're always looking for the next story sometimes.
Correct. Well, and I don't want to rush any investigation that they may have into this, because
Yeah.
once something is solidified, they've made an arrest, made sure that there was no other injuries, that kind of thing, then we can, maybe talk about it. Narrative. See below. Narrative. Friends and family area canvas. On November 20th, 2022, multiple friends and family of the victims gathered in Moscow, organized into several groups, and canvassed several areas in Moscow for possible evidence. I was contacted by several people from the groups when they located something of interest. I met with the group, photographed, and collected the following items: a clear food service grade plastic glove located at the top of the hillside to the west of the walking path in between. What is that? Nez
Pierce?
Nez Pierce and the U of I administration building. Just down from where this plastic glove was located was a large beige metal Generac generator box. There was a plastic bag inside the box, which it looked like it had white grease rags inside of it. I photographed this item and did not collect it. A light pink beige pair of women's underwear. Winner's brand. Sorry, that's pretty funny. This was located in a juniper shrub in the Shattuck Amphitheater in Charles Houston, Shattuck. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you have to look at that and go, listen, she was just getting a little bit of action and she lost her panties. She couldn't find them. She left there a happy person. A black winter.
All of my underpants end up in shrubs near amphitheaters.
No,
not Narnia.
Not a black winter glove, one size fits all. This item was located near the steps which lead from Memorial Gym Parking Lot 39 up to the tennis courts. The items I collected were transported to MPD, stored in temporary storage, and detectives why were they storing it inside of detectives? So they could dry, and were later booked into MPD evidence. One group located what they believed to be blood spots on several rocks in the Arboretum Botanical Garden near the gathering place of the north side rear of the kiosk. Detective Talbot with ISP tested the spots and determined they were not blood. One group located what they believed to be blood on the stairs at Building 5 at the Grove Apartments. Detective Talbot determined this is not blood. The photos I took were copied to a DVD and booked into MPD evidence. Detective Vargas.
Yeah, but it does make sense that they would have them go around, because this is an entire campus that they're having to canvass. And, officers probably have done a look, but, friends and family are going to say, hey, it's kind of normal to find underpants in shrubs, so that's not a big deal. But because the kids on campus are going to say, okay, this is normal trash kind of detritus that I see here.
Right.
Versus this gives me an odd feeling.
Yeah, this is out of place. Why is the Generac box? It's sitting out in the middle of the woods with white rags in it. I guess somebody got busted throwing their trash in a place they shouldn't have.
So this is a detailed information on kind of what happened to the dog after they found the dog. So on
Murders.
11/13/2022 at approximately 12:05, I arrived at the house. In reference to an unconscious subject, it was quickly determined that the scene was likely a quadruple homicide based on our observations. When I arrived on the third floor to assess the scene, I noticed a medium-sized curly-haired tan dog on the bed inside the western third floor bedroom, later identified as Kaylee Conclavy's room. Now, the dog appeared timid and scared, but didn't otherwise react to their presence. Now, due to the chaos surrounding the scene, my initial concern was preserving the scene, and as part of that process, I asked one of the officers to shut the door so the dog did not attempt to jump on the bed with any of the victims.
Yeah.
After the area was cordoned off and the area secure, Corporal Snyder began taking photos of the scene. At some point prior to this process, the dog moved from the bed under the desk in Kaylee's room. After the photos were completed, I asked LCSO Deputy Olson to respond and assist by taking the dog to the Humane Society of Palouse for safekeeping. I collected the dog from under the desk. The dog was timid and took some coaxing to move under the desk, but did not appear to have any obvious injuries or stain on either its body or paws. Due to the amount of blood inside the bedrooms where the victims were located and the lack of blood in or on or around the dog, I don't believe the dog was on or around the victims. I walked the dog to the front door where Officer Warner was stationed and asked him to hold on to the dog until Deputy Olson arrived. A short time later, Deputy Olson arrived, walked the dog from Officer Warner to Deputy Olson, who was standing in the street. At my request, he took the dog to the Humane Society. I asked Deputy Olson to write on the intake sheet for the Humane Society not to release the dog to anyone unless MPD gave approval first. Now, I didn't take any photos of the dog specifically during my response to the scene. Some of the photos taken by Corporal Snyder, evidence items 1, have the dog in the background. And the dog can also be seen on my body-worn camera. In reviewing Officer Nunez's body-worn camera of his initial response and clear of the residence, the door to Conclavy's room was open upon his arrival and the dog was laying on the bed. Again, these are the kind of things that a good defense attorney is going to say, where was the dog? Could the dog have messed up or destroyed, evidence?
Right.
Did you take steps to make sure that the dog didn't do all of this? So there are a lot of pieces and parts that you don't think about that have to be documented and reported, because a good defense attorney will say, well, why didn't you? And sometimes that's enough for reasonable doubt.
Right. Yeah. The last thing you want to do is, have a dog that had blood on its paws and well, did you get any samples of the blood? And he says that, there's pictures of it on my body-worn cam. There's no visible signs of that. So, he's basically verifying everything. And he's also signed an affidavit verifying these things. On January 11th, 2023, I met with KN, General Counsel for the University of Idaho, to facilitate the download of video footage from the campus security cameras. I previously spoke with DL, Director of Infrastructure Services, who would preserve videos to be reviewed for any evidence related to the quadruple homicides at the home. On November 13th, 2022, I provided the university with a storage device capable of storing large amounts of video. On January 18th, 2023, I received a message stating that the transfer of the videos was complete. The storage device could be picked up, and on January 23rd, I retrieved the storage device from N, returned it to the Moscow police station, where a copy of the data was transferred to the server in the secure computer forensic lab. The files were verified by hash value to ensure bit for bit copying was complete. Means there's no skips, there's no misplacement of
They
it.
didn't edit. And again, I mean, this is a big amount of information. I mean, someone has to sit now, this one detective or corporal, I don't know how they divvy up the jobs, but someone has to go through all of this footage and kind of say, okay, was there anything suspicious here? Was there anything, look at the time period that the, supervising detective, but this is a lot of,
A
you
lot of
know,
information, because you probably have multiple cameras. I mean, if they're
yeah.
saying that they received it on the 18th and they returned it on the 23rd, that's how long it took them to upload all of that information off of those cameras into that storage device. And it could have been they had to go camera by camera. I don't think they just did a big data dump. It was probably camera by camera. And oh my gosh, could you imagine you're just and having to also notate, which just the upload itself was probably a good 24-hour kind of deal. Like somebody comes in, it's like, it's still uploading. This is where I left off. Can you take over? Or if it's just one person doing it, man, I've got to go get some lunch. I don't get paid enough for this.
Okay, I finally figured it out. Okay, so there is a tip that corresponds, but Corporal Payne's number is also
What's his badge
157.
number?
Yeah, his badge number. So I think that might be tips that correspond with him.
Okay.
Because I was just doing shorthand notes. So I'm like, tip with, 157. Financial warrants. On November 19th, 2022, I applied for and was granted several warrants for financial institutions who serve Moscow, Idaho region. Forensic accountant MD with the Federal Bureau of Investigation assisted in the production and service of the warrants. Now, the warrants were approved for the records associated with, and it looks like everyone in the house, including the victims of the crime, but also the roommates, because they're starting off from scratch. And I do remember early on, there were implications or inferences that this could have been a cartel sort of thing.
Yes.
So, and they're probably making sure that no one doesn't have any weird deposits coming in, money they can't account for with a job, things like that.
Right. Yeah. If and that's why they're looking at their bank accounts, because I mean, they can pretty much, you can look at someone's bank account and say, okay, this is their student loan that's hitting their bank account. It's 15, and I'm just using hypothetical numbers because I don't know these things. It's $1,500 a month that shows up at this regular interval. This is how much is going out at rent at this regular interval. This is, they're buying little things here and there. Where in the hell did this $100,000 come from? Like, we need to track this down. It came from an offshore account in the Caymans. Then they're going to be a little more concerned. Or if they see that, no, mom just was actually sending over, $10,000 to daughter because, she needed a new transmission in her car. Like I said, hypothetical numbers.
Yeah.
They've got to be able to account for these things. That does make perfect sense why they would do that.
And a warrant was served on November 21st, 2022 via FedEx. FAD reported data requested pursuant to the warrant was received on December 6, 2022. The data files were downloaded to the forensic computers located in the secure forensic computer lab at Moscow Police Department. The warrant return receipt and affidavit were complete, and those documents were then sent to the prosecutor's office to be returned to the court. And they also received or sent a receipt to the Bank of America. So again, there's a lot of T's and I's that have to be taken care of. So
Well, and it's also showing, and that's also showing a chain of custody. I mean, because we deal
yeah,
with this quite often. For example, whenever we send out service, we might send it out FedEx, we might send it out UPS, we might send it out via email, we might send it certified mail. And all of those things you have to be able to track. So whenever you're actually showing up to court, you can say, this is what we sent when we sent it. And this is part of why they have discovery in court cases, because if you had to go through each one of these individual files and explain every single one of these things in a court case, it could take years.
yes,
And so what happens is in part of that discovery portion of it, they're showing facts, and they're saying this is the chain of custody. unless there's something questionable about it, most times defense and prosecution will agree that is the fact of the case. Let's move on. So that way they can get to the point of what they're trying to make. And for example, this would be the FedEx thing. They're saying, listen, can we agree that the warrant was properly served? And they'll come back and they'll say, yes, the warrant was properly served. What did the warrant uncover? That's what they're after is, did the warrant uncover X, Y, or Z? Absolutely, it did. We can agree on that. This is why you'll see like these cases that may only take a couple of weeks to get through in trial. They've already discussed all of this ad nauseum because that's what their job is. They've
Yeah.
discussed this they've sat down, counsel meets with counsel, and they say, can we just agree that this was done properly? And most of the time they'll say, yes, that was done properly. If they see something that's suspicious, defense says, listen, it doesn't look like this warrant was done properly. So we're going to pull that aside and we're going to have a discussion about that. And we're
Yeah.
going to get to the bottom of this. And this may end up tanking your case. Like I said, most cases are already figured by the time that they get to court. And a lot of times it's just trying to show the jury because
Yeah.
they've already agreed on 90% of the case already.
Well, and that's what it did take me a while to understand that a lot of the cases particulars, a lot of the arguments are done in limine as opposed to those kind of, you know, Matlock moments. Well,
Right.
when they do happen, a lot of times they're in these pretrial hearings where you're having arguments, this is admissible, it's not prejudicial information, or this is outside of the scope that so a lot of these things are really argued. What evidence can be brought in, what can't be brought in.
Testimony, all of it.
Yeah, limitations on testimony, and a lot of, depositions. There is so much kind of pre-game work that goes into trials that people don't realize goes in there. If it's not their jam, if it's not something they've kind of nerded out on, it is kind of labyrinthian and moves slower than molasses sometimes.
Oh yeah, because you're looking at, especially whenever you're in the motions and things like that. A lot of people can't understand why this case hasn't moved forward. Why is it taking so long? We know that X, Y, or Z did this or didn't do this. We know that this happened. Why can't they just move this along? And that's part of the process. This is the boring stuff that you don't see. You don't see the hours. And this is why they can't understand why did a 2-week trial take, 2 years to get here? Well, that's why, is because there's so many things that they have to nail down. And those are generally the facts of the case. They have to agree on certain things. So whenever you see a court case where you've got people that are filing motion after motion after motion after motion, most judges don't like that, because this isn't something that should be seen outside of the court, because it's boring, it's repetitive. What they want to see whenever a judge looks at something, he wants to look at the facts of the case. Did you confer with counsel on this particular thing? You just sending me a whole bunch of gobbledygook, which I have to read, is going to do nothing but piss me off. Why don't you confer with counsel, come to an agreement on what is true, what isn't true? If you can't agree on it, then we can have a hearing on that. But most people don't understand that, because they're so used to watching Matlock. Like, they got to have that "I got you" moment.
Yeah, and you don't have those typically. Those are dramas.
Yes.
Now, I did find it interesting that they also preserved December 7th, 2022. I was requested by Corporal Brett Payne to complete a preservation letter on the Microsoft Xbox gamer tag of someone, which was reportedly the user ID for CC. I completed a PDF document and submitted a preservation request through the Microsoft LE portal located at leportal.microsoft.com and received an email approximately several hours later, stating that they had received the request and assigned it an internal ID.
And then they have the ID number. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so, and I wouldn't have even thought to kind of subpoena on, because gaming isn't my jam. I wouldn't
Right.
have even thought about doing that. But that's another thing. I mean, you've got people swatting people for games.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not outside of the realm of possibility that this could be, some Call of Duty vendetta.
You never know. You would hope not, but
You
there
would,
is that
yeah.
possibility.
So,
On November 17th, Detective Chris Angle with PPP provided me with an email with information regarding several Pullman home invasion involving a possible suspect of JAC. I forwarded this email to the FBI Moscow tip line to be assigned and followed up with. That's interesting. So there was somebody that was a
breaking
suspect.
into houses.
On December 13th, I saw an article online of a recent arrest of SH, and H was arrested for stabbing multiple people at a casino in a certain place and fled the area in a white sedan. I reached out and spoke. Oh wow. Holy cow.
Yeah. With a white sedan.
Yeah, provided me
Yeah.
with a description of the suspect vehicle with the weapon which was used in this offense. Detective also stated that the sheath for the knife was located on the passenger seat of the suspect vehicle. I determined that this person was not involved in our incident and told Detective A I would not need any further information regarding their incident. Around December 15th, I received a phone call from Detective B or R from County Sheriff's Office with the information on the abandoned 2016 white Hyundai Elantra, which was located in another county near a residence. I called Detective BR back and provided me with the plate number, which was registered to CC out of another location. Detective R stated that there was past contact at the residence where the vehicle was seen parked involving a relative of CE, R, C, and R. LS. I hate them.
All the letters.
Yes. Sent me a photo of the vehicle, which I determined did not match the suspect vehicle description. Sergeant Blanker also received this tip from Detective R and spoke with him. That's really interesting because, this is following a lead. It's just like, hey, we might have a break on the case. We've got a white sedan, and there was a stabbing that was involved. And then once they see the video, they're like, no, that's either wrong year model or the car doesn't match up whatsoever. We're looking for a Kia, not a Hyundai, whatever it might be. But they're actually following up on this.
Yeah, and I mean, it would have been tempting to, see another multiple mass stabbing and think, okay, this is our guy.
Right.
We saw a white car, and since I'm dumb at cars, I'd be like, white car, it's a white car. We got it.
It's got to be him.
It's him.
On November 15th, 2022, I called KR and the property owner for Linda Lane and asked about the video footage he had of the property. Stated he did have video and later sent me an email with a direct login to his camera system so the videos could be viewed for any time frame. Details of our email are below. R&D below is a link in the Google Drive with the footage of our cameras at Linda Lane. I uploaded the videos from 2 cameras to 200 through 600 on 1113. One camera shows the parking lot included a little bit of the parking lot from the Queen's apartment below. The other camera covers the street of Linda Lane looking towards Taylor Lake. The longer videos, the larger, show the entire hour, while the shorter videos, they're show clips where the camera systems detected the motions. And here's the HTTPS where you can view that. The videos are currently uploading, so keep refreshing if they're not all there. I have pictures of myself. Send me a call. Additionally, I'm providing the login to the camera system so you can review any of the cameras for any time frame. And here's the username and the password. Now, once you're logged in, you can choose any of those 4 cameras from the list on the right. Make sure that you choose camera 5 because that's my personal OnlyFans and I'm so lonely. You can click on the play block tab of the top. If the date from the calendar on the right, then use the timeline at the bottom to select when to view. Note the camera that points down Linda Lane goes offline every day from this time to this time for a scheduled Wi-Fi reset because I sort of clock it up at that time. Just, I don't know. My OnlyFans gets all these hits. I don't understand. It might be the cucumbers, could be the eggplant. In addition to using a web browser to view the videos, there's also a PC app and a mobile app that you can be downloaded. It's called OnlyFans. You can check me out at 1-800-HOT-LOVE. Just search for the big cucumber. You can use the same IP address that you are all above with the iConfigured app. You may need any help viewing any of this, don't hesitate to reach out. Here's my cell number. Call me. I forwarded this information to FBI on how to access the Linda Lane Drive docked video. On November 27th, I called CR, who lives at DR, and I asked R if she still had her Nest camera system, and she stated that she did. R put me in contact with her husband, BB. B said that he could provide me with her available camera footage. Bought a hard drive to which MPD, which contained video footage from their Nest cameras. A white sedan, matching the description of the suspect vehicle, is seen traveling west on Indian Hills Drive and passes by Indian Hills Drive on 11/13/2022 at approximately 3:25. Around the end of November, the beginning of December, Detective Chris Engel provided me with the following videos from several Pullman businesses. And he lists all the businesses. On December 2nd, 2022, Detective Chris Engel provided me with the contact information for the blank Pullman, Washington. I reached out to the corporate security head, MG, and stated we could come to the branch in Pullman and view the video on site to see if that would be of any evidentiary value, provided prior to requesting a search warrant to obtain the video. And FBI, RR, made arrangements to view the available video at such and such place. FBI called me, told me he viewed the available video and did not locate anything of evidentiary value. On January 3rd, 2023, KD Pullman PD record specialist sent me a link to ppdevidence.com and shared all videos and photos for 2 PPD cases and D. I found buck knife in a sheath located on Terra View in front of the WSU Technology Research Park on this date. The photos for this case are attached to in Spillman in the original call and did not download the photos from ppdevidence.com. Was a hit and run DUI accident at another place which occurred at 11:22 at approximately 23:40. This location is on the same road leading to Kohberger's apartment complex. Multiple officers responded to this location, remained on scene for several hours with their in-car cameras and body cameras capturing video. The videos span from 11/12/2022 at 2:34 hours to 11/13/2022 at 03:25 hours. The suspect vehicle was, oh my God, this is amazing.
So I'm trying to, was the suspect vehicle located on these body cam photos?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so so this is something that would have been brought into evidence, and would have been very important, because if Kohberger, for example, was to say, I was nowhere near there was no way that I was near there because he had his cell phone off, remember. And so if they were responding to an accident and his car drove by there and they've got it on the, and I'm sorry, but those body cameras actually are like really high-end body cameras. The footage that you see is not the good footage because it's a large amount of data. But if you view this in a controlled setting, you would find out that those body cameras are actually really high quality. They capture a lot of stuff. So if they're responding to an accident and that vehicle goes by, it could be passing by, and they got a car sitting there with its camera on. It's going to catch that car going by, and they can verify that it's there. This is really important.
Yeah, and I mean, again, think of just these are the things. This is why making or having the perfect murder is kind of a thing of the past, because
Yes.
no one would have anticipated that there would have been a DUI hit and run, on Bryan Kohberger
No.
Street or close to that area. No one would have figured that. I mean, and there are things that worked in Kohberger's favor as well. No one would have assumed that some other guy would have done a stabbing spree in another white car, at a casino.
Right.
So, but there's these random things that people can't account for, and we're all going to have our blind spots. So Bryan didn't see where his plan was flawed, but there's also these random just things that happen that you're never going to be able to, fully account for.
Right. It's never going to be an episode of Dexter. Sorry. Multiple officers responded to this location and remained on scene for several hours with their in-car cameras and body cameras. And it shows when it was. The owner of this suspect vehicle was contacted and arrested for this offense and booked into the Whitman County Jail. While reviewing the photos located on Kohberger's phone, I found a screenshot of our Whitman County booking information taken from Whitman County Jail roster. Last modified case 1113 at 627. I downloaded all of the videos from PPPDevidence.com regarding and will review to see if Kohberger drove by the incident between 23:43 and 3:25 hours. Let me see. I wanted to see while the owner of the suspect vehicle was contacted, arrested, Whitman County book information. Oh, while reviewing the photos located on Kohberger's phone, I found a screenshot of the booking information. So he looked up the booking information.
Yeah, that is interesting. And again, this isn't most cases you either have the, flaming or smoking gun, or you have very, a bunch of circumstantial evidence.
Right.
So this is just, a piece that, hey, why did you have that booking information? Why, what prompted you to put that on there? And, just different things that don't make sense if you have no relation to the person.
Right. And I'll say this in his defense, it could be something simple as, I drove by there. I saw that there was an accident.
Yeah,
I got a picture of the license plate. I knew what the license plate was, and I was curious, so I was like pulled up the information to see who this person was and saw who it was that was arrested. But if you have multiple instances of that kind of thing, almost like they're looking for a crime, it's sort of the fireman that goes out and starts fires so he can be the hero. You start looking at, okay, why is this guy following all of this stuff? Oh, okay, well, he's doing forensic studies, so this is just part of him learning the process. Could be completely easily explained away.
Yeah.
But if there's enough of this information that comes out, it's like, were you working with somebody else? Was somebody else involved in this? Because it appears that you were drawing an interest to this, but why this particular night? I mean, these are questions that the prosecution is going to be asking, and a lot of people tell you murder suspects generally don't take the stand. And the reason they don't take the stand is because then they're under oath for the things that they say. And they can get tripped up really easily, especially if they've been making up a lie, because now they're going to have to answer these questions that they weren't expecting. And if a person is innocent, generally they'll not saying that all guilty or all innocent people do or don't take the stand. I'm saying generally, someone that's innocent has no problem taking the stand because they can explain every single reason, every single step of that night. And I'll put it for an example, what happened with Rittenhouse, for example.
Yes.
He had no problem taking the stand because he can explain every reason why he was at that location. Whereas you have other people that they get up on the stand, and the reason that they're getting up on the stand is to give an excuse of why they did such a horrible act.
Yeah, and just the volume of information. They went through Mingles Bar and Grill and got all of the credit card transactions for Mingles. So not only are they looking in at their bank records, they're looking at, Xbox things. They're also looking at where they went and getting all the credit cards. Was someone watching, any of these people? Are we going to find credit card receipts from the same, person following them around at different bars? These are all leads that they have to look at because they didn't know who was going through.
No, at this point, they had no idea it was Bryan Kohberger.
And this is where we just write that the doggo got released.
Oh,
So,
well, I think we need a happy puppy
oh,
video. That's what we
puppy
need.
kitten break. Yes, we
Yes,
do.
puppy kitten break.
When the world feels like a dumpster dive and humans forget how to thrive, take a break, just you and me, with a puppy and kitten, wild and free. Paws and purrs, let's drift away to a land where tails wag and play. No more noise, just gentle muse in our furry four-legged cruise.
My favorite thing is that the kitten is showing its butt in the end.
I had noticed. Now I'm going to have to look for it. Now that you've told me, I'll be looking for the kitten
It's
butt.
some hot cat action, It's how I roll.
Oh, did I ever tell you
All
one of
right.
my friends had a picture of his wife's father's dog. So let's see, the father of the dog that she had, which was her brother. It was a
Okay.
golden lab, and so dad was a stud. I mean, because they
Okay.
would studded him out, and that's how she ended up with this puppy. So what he did is he took a picture of the dog, and it was just a random picture. And he goes, "What I want you to do is I want you to zoom in on just the balls until you can see the freckle on it." And I was just like, "Are you serious?" He was like, "Yes, do that." And because she had just gotten a brand new one of those big screen Macs, that's
Oh,
all in
yeah.
one Macs. And I was just like, "I'll do it for you, but I am not claiming responsibility for this." That thing stayed on her screensaver forever, and she just would laugh her ass off every time she got in there. It was just this big ball sack on the center of her screen. Sorry, it's just random.
Well, speaking of random, Tinder Kohberger warrant. On
Ooh.
January 24th, 2023, I applied for a warrant for the user subscriber information and user data associated with a Tinder account of Bryan Kohberger with any of the following identifiers, and I'm guessing those are just his emails and Gmails. On January 25th, 2023, the warrant was granted and signed by Magistrate Megan Marshall with 7 days to serve the legal process. January 26, 2023, at approximately 9:22, a warrant was served via Tinder law enforcement portal. I received an email shortly after the submission confirming the receipt of the request and assigning it an internal reference number. Later that day, I received a call from SM, a customer
S&M.
service for Tinder.
For
I mean,
Tinder, that's just like, oh, you got to be kidding
on
me.
brand.
On brand.
Customer representative for Match Group. Now, he informed me that they had located a previous account linked to the email there. However, no further information was available as the account had been deleted. I requested any and all information available for the deleted account. On January 30th, 2023, I received an email from Tinder stating the data requested pursuant to the warrant was available to download. I logged into the law enforcement portal and began downloading the files to the forensic computers located in the secure computer lab at Moscow Police Department. In reviewing contents, I found several unique identifiers associated with some of these. So it looked like there were possibly other emails or dead emails that
Right.
were linked with this as well. A warrant return receipt was filed, and sent to the prosecutor's office. So
Oh,
I didn't know he had a
a Tinder account.
Tinder.
It might have been an early on Tinder account. It just,
Well,
was like, I'm
yeah.
not active on this. It's like my Facebook account under not my username. Like, I my wife says, did you see that your sister posted something? I was like, no. She goes, you don't get on Facebook at all. I was like, no, I don't. I said I use it for YouTube. That's the only stuff that I look at anymore.
Well, and it's not just Bryan. It looks like they went through Madison Mogan's Tinder account as well.
Yeah, it's
Because,
just to see, maybe she had a stalker that they didn't know about.
yeah, because, they again just did the normal thing where they sent out the warrant, got the receipt, and then sent it on up.
Based on the information obtained during the course of this investigation, I applied for an arrest warrant for Bryan C. Kohberger. Magistrate Judge Marshall signed the warrant on 12/29. Previous search warrants and information led investigators to believe Kohberger left Pullman and returned to his parents' home in Albright, Pennsylvania. Sergeant Gilbertson, ISP, TS FBI, and I flew to Pennsylvania on 12/29/2022 and met with Pennsylvania State Police and FBI personnel there. At approximately 1 o'clock in the morning on 12/30, the PSP CERT team conducted an operation at and took Kohberger into custody based off the warrant signed by Judge Marshall. Kohberger was taken to a nearby PSP barracks where Sergeant Gilbertson and I interviewed him for approximately 45 minutes. See Gilbert's report on the interview for full details. I would love to see the transcript of that.
Yeah, and I do wonder if Kohberger, being more versed in this, asked immediately for an attorney. I mean,
I could see that.
I could see that because 45 minutes, first they get into like, hey, we need to sign and fill this paperwork. These are your Miranda rights. So I would give, 20 minutes for that. And then, he's like, look, I'm not going to talk. So they give him a couple minutes and then they say, okay, you've decided not to talk to us to engage your rights. So you're just going straight to jail now.
Well, yeah, and they would have basically been detaining him at that point in time. Not arrest. They may have arrested him for this, but it would still be more of a detain because, all people are innocent until proven guilty or otherwise they plead guilty.
Yes.
So it's a possibility that there is no conversation except for these are your rights, and he says, I want my attorney. And then they just wait for the next 20 minutes and say, well, your attorney will be here. We're going to put you in a holding cell.
Yeah, that's because they are not allowed to talk anymore to him if he's exercised that right.
Well, they can talk to him, but he doesn't have to respond.
Yes.
They could ask him questions to the moon and there would be nothing that he would have to say.
Okay, so this is Kohberger information and cell phone search warrants. As part of the investigation, an extensive search, commonly referred to in law enforcement as a video canvass, was conducted in the area of the Kings Road residence. This video canvass was to obtain any footage from the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, in the area of the Kings Road residence and surrounding neighborhoods in an effort to locate the suspect or suspects or the suspect vehicle or vehicles that were traveling or leaving from the Kings Road residence. This video canvas resulted in the collection of numerous surveillance videos in the area from both residential and business addresses. I have reviewed numerous videos that were collected and have had conversations with other MPD officers, ISP detectives, and FBI agents that are similarly reviewing footage that was obtained. A review of camera footage indicated that a white sedan, hereafter suspect vehicle number 1, was observed traveling westbound in the blank block of Indian Hills Drive in Moscow at approximately 3:26 a.m. and westbound on Snyder Avenue at Idaho State Highway 95 in Moscow at approximately 3:28 a.m. On this video, it appeared that suspect vehicle 1 was not displaying a front license plate, nor did it appear that the vehicle had fog lights on the lower portion of the front bumper based off the video obtained from SM located somewhere. Now, this vehicle, which captured suspect vehicle 1 crossing South Main Street from Snyder Avenue to Lauder Avenue at approximately 3:28 a.m. A review of footage from multiple videos obtained from King Road neighborhood shows multiple sightings of suspect vehicle 1 starting at 3:29 a.m. and ending at 4:20 a.m. Now, these sightings show that the suspect vehicle 1 makes an initial 3 passes by 1122 King Road residents, then leaves via Walenta Drive. Based off of my experience as a parole officer, this is a residential neighborhood with a very limited number of vehicles that travel in this area during the early morning hours. Upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter or exit this area during this time frame. Suspect vehicle 1 can be seen entering the area a 4th time at approximately 4:04 a.m. It can be seen driving eastbound on King Road, stopping and turning around in front of blank Queen Road, number whatever, then driving back westbound on King Road. When suspect vehicle 1 is on the front of King Road residence, it appears to have unsuccessfully attempted to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to the intersection of Queen Road and King Road, where it can be seen completing a 3-point turn, then driving eastbound again down Queen Road. Suspect vehicle 1 is next seen departing the area of the Kings Road residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. at a high
Pause a
rate of
second.
speed.
Go
Okay.
back up. When was he first spotted? At 4:04. So we're looking at 15 minutes later. Okay.
Yeah, but it seems like he was doing loops around because he's seen near the location at 3:26 is
Yeah. And then at 4:20, and then at 4:05 or 4:05, and then 4:20 or 4:04.
yeah, so it looks like he was there for a good bit of time just kind of driving around and looking around.
And you were at suspect vehicle 1,
Okay.
next seen departing this area of King Road residence at 4:20. That's where you left off.
Okay, 4:20 at a high rate of speed. Suspect vehicle 1 is next observed traveling southbound on Walenta Drive. Based on my knowledge of the area and review of camera footage in the neighborhood that does not show the suspect vehicle during that time frame, I believe that the suspect vehicle 1 likely exited the neighborhood at Palouse River Drive and Conestoga Drive. Now, Palouse River Drive is at the southern edge of Moscow and proceeds into Whitman County, Washington. The road eventually leads to Pullman, Washington. Pullman, Washington is approximately 10 miles from Moscow, Idaho. Both Pullman and Moscow are small college towns, and people commonly travel back and forth between them.
I can see that.
Law enforcement officers provided video footage of suspect vehicle 1 to forensic examiners with the FBI that regularly utilize surveillance footage to identify the year, make, and model of an unknown vehicle that is observed by one or more cameras during the commission of a criminal offense. The forensic examiner has approximately 35 years of law enforcement experience with 12 years at the FBI. His specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles. He uses a database that gives both visual cues or clues of vehicles across the state or states to identify the differences between vehicles.
Mhm.
After reviewing the numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, the forensic examiner initially believed that the suspect vehicle was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Upon further review, he indicated it could also be a 2011 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra. As a result, investigators have been reviewing information on persons in a possession of a vehicle that is between a 2011 and 2016 white Hyundai Elantra. If you want to take over, we've got 7 pages on this.
Investigators were given access to the video footage on the Washington State University WSU campus located in Pullman. A review of that video indicated that approximately 2:53 on November 13th, a white sedan, which was observed traveling southeast on Nevada Street, Pullman, Washington, towards State Route 270. State Route 270 connects to Pullman, Washington to Moscow, Idaho. This camera footage from Pullman, Washington, was provided to the same FBI forensic examiner. The forensic examiner identified the vehicle observed in Pullman as being a 2014 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra. At approximately 5:25 a.m., a white sedan, which was consistent with the description suspect vehicle, was observed on 5 cameras in Pullman, Washington, on the WSU campus cameras. The first camera was recorded. The white sedan was located at a certain address on Johnson Road in Pullman. The white sedan was observed traveling northbound on Johnson Road. Johnson Road leads directly back to West Polo's River Drive in Moscow, which intersects with Conestoga Drive. Okay, thank you. The white sedan was then was observed turning north on Bishop Boulevard, northwest on State Route 270 at approximately 5:27 a.m. The white Elantra was observed on camera traveling northbound on Stadium Way on Nevada Street, Stadium Way at Grimes Way, Stadium Drive on Wilson Road, Stadium Way at Cougar Way, because that's where we like to get our ladies. On November 25th, 2022, MPD asked the local area law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra in the area on November 29th at approximately 12:28 a.m. Washington State University police officer Daniel Tingo queried the white Elantra's register at WSU. As a result of that query, located a 2015 white Elantra with a Pennsylvania license plate. This vehicle is registered to Bryan Kohberger, hereafter Kohberger, residing at his address, Pullman, Washington, is approximately 3/4 of a mile from the intersection of Stadium Way and Cougar Way, where we like to get all our ladies. Last camera located that picked up the white Elantra. That same day at approximately 12:58 a.m., WSU officer Curtis Whitman was looking for a white Hyundai Elantra, not a Cougar, and located a 2015 white Elantra at this address in Pullman in the parking lot. This address is an apartment complex that houses WSU students. Officer Whitman also ran the car and it returned to Kohberger with a Washington tag. Upon receipt of this information, I reviewed Kohberger's Washington State driver's license information photograph via the driver's license query for the name. This license indicates that Kohberger is a white male with a height of 6 foot, weighs 185 pounds. Additionally, the photograph of Kohberger shows that he has bushy eyebrows. Ladies, just get you all excited, doesn't it? Kohberger's physical description is consistent with the description of the male DM saw inside the King Road residence on November 13th. If you want to take over.
Sure. Further investigation, including a review of Latah County Sheriff's Deputy CPL Duke's body cam and report, showed that on August 21st, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop that occurred in Moscow, Idaho, by Corporal Duke. Now, at that time, Kohberger, who was the sole occupant, was driving a white 2000 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates, which were set to expire on November 30th, 2022. During the stop, which was recorded via law enforcement body camera, Kohberger provided his phone number as blank, hereafter referred to as 8458 phone, as his cellular telephone numbers. Investigators conducted an electronic database query and learned that the 8458 number was issued by AT&T. On October 14th, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop by a WSU police officer. Upon review of that body cam, a report of the stop, Kohberger was the sole occupant and was driving a 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. On November 18th, 2022, according to a Washington state licensing, Kohberger registered the Elantra with Washington and later received a Washington plate. Prior to this time, the 2015 white Elantra was registered in Pennsylvania, which does not require a front license plate to be displayed. This was learned through communications with a Pennsylvania officer who is currently certified in the state of Pennsylvania. Based on my own experience and communication with Washington law enforcement, I know that Idaho and Washington require front and back license plates to be displayed.
And do you know why that is?
I'm guessing so you have more chances to write down the license plate.
Well, because in these states you get a lot of snow. In places like Pennsylvania, they may have changed it. They still get a lot of snow, but they may have changed it. Like here in Georgia, they only require license plate on the rear of the car.
Yeah.
And you know, that's because the front ends are usually damaged anyway from, you know, hitting things. Might
Yeah.
be deer or, you know, possums or whatever. I don't know. But no, certain states are required on front and rear, but Pennsylvania apparently only requires it on the back.
Yeah. Well, I know Indiana, we only have back plates.
Really?
So,
Okay.
yeah.
I
That
think
being,
I think Illinois requires front and rear, but
now
I
it
don't
might
know.
be
It's been a while.
something Indiana's looking to change, but for right now, they're okay with us just paying for the monster potholes with one plate. I'm sure. Don't give them any ideas. I'm sure they'll
They'll
come
find
up
a
with,
reason to jack it
yeah,
up.
you need 5 plates for our roads.
You need one on the side doors too, so that way whenever you're swinging that door open and you're hitting that guy on the side of the road, that we can make sure that that imprint is in there.
Yes. Investigators believe that Kohberger continued to drive the white Elantra as the vehicle was captured on December 13th, 2022 by a license plate reader in Loma, Colorado, information provided by a query to a database. Kohberger's Elantra was then queried on December 15th, 2022 by law enforcement in Hancock County, Indiana.
Oh, I know what that
Now,
is.
yeah. Well, now the interesting thing is that I do believe that the FBI was having localities as Bryan was driving through keep tabs on him.
Yes.
And
Well, and those also would have been in hindsight because they're always capturing that information,
yeah,
but most of it they just filters in, filters out. But if they're all of a sudden they're saying, hey, well, you know, can you rewind this over the next 30 days and tell me, do you see a white Hyundai Elantra? And they're like, we see thousands of those every day. I mean, so how about this? You give me a license plate number. They get the license plate number and they can track it. But I think the queries were because of the traffic stops, because he had 2 of them. It wasn't just
well,
one. He got pulled over
yeah,
twice, and his father was with him.
yes. It was later learned this query was a result of a traffic stop in Hancock County, Indiana, wherein Kohberger was the driver of the white Elantra. His father was a passenger. Kohberger was stopped again 9 minutes later in Hancock County and released without citation or further enforcement. On December 16th, 2022, at approximately 2:26 p.m., surveillance video obtained by request of FBI agents in Pennsylvania showed Kohberger's Elantra in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. The only visible occupant of the vehicle was a white male whose description was consistent with Kohberger. Kohberger has family in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, learned through a TLO search and locate database query, namely blank, an address which is inside the gated community where the footage was captured.
I mean, that's interesting. I didn't realize it was a gated community.
No, and I didn't realize that they were keeping tabs on him to this extent. I mean,
I do remember hearing something about that they were observing him going out, and he was wearing rubber gloves whenever he was taking out trash, which could be excusable if you're just like, stuff is nasty, I don't want to get it on my hands. But it was just a little unusual considering
and
the
I'll have to
circumstances.
go back and look, but I think they also claimed that he was cleaning out it, or like deep cleaning or detailing his car. I'll have to go back and look because
And doing
I've
it in
slept
the winter
since
in
then.
Pennsylvania, not a time I would want to be doing it. I'd pay somebody else to do it.
Fair point. Based on information provided on the WSU website, Kohberger was a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University. Pursuant to records provided by a member of the interview panel for Pullman Police Department, we learned that the fall 2022 semester was Kohberger's first semester at Washington State University. Additionally, these same records indicated that Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. These records also showed Kohberger wrote an essay, which he applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. Kohberger wrote in his essay that he had interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. Kohberger also posted a Reddit survey, which can be found by an open source internet search. The survey asked for participants to provide information to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision making when committing a crime.
Well, and that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a criminal or doing
No.
criminal things. All that suggests is this was something that he was interested in, and he was, whenever you're in college, you have to write some sort of essay, and that essay, this could have been just his brainchild of like, hey, I got this idea. How about I reach out? He may have never had any plans to do any harm to anybody at the point in time that he did that, and just trying to understand the psychology behind it. And who knows, maybe he was just like, well, let's see if I can get away with this. Or maybe he was thinking about that at the time. We don't know his state of mind because we never had a trial.
Well, no. And I mean, while this all looks, damning, a good defense attorney might be able to say, well, yeah, of course he has a survey up. He's a criminology major. Of
Yeah.
course he has, he's made essays and wanted to get in on the ground level at a police department. By themselves, these things aren't suspicious, but then
Right.
when they start coming together to make different patterns, when it starts, when it comes out that there wasn't another white Hyundai Elantra in the surrounding area, that's where things start getting a little bit more,
Creepy.
damning
Yeah.
as far as, because a lot of things can be explained away if it's a circumstantial case. There can be, innocent explanations, but, when you're having to make 37 innocent explanations for what
Behavior.
happened.
And I mean, think about this, Mo. What do you think would happen if all of a sudden there was a deletion in your neighborhood and everybody's a suspect and they get a hold of your internet searches? What do you think that's going to turn up? They're going to be looking at you pretty harshly. They're going to be going, Mo, I don't know what exactly you were thinking here, but why are you looking up how to waterboard a victim to get information? And what is your fetish with wood chippers? I don't
Yeah.
understand this.
That's pretty much gonna be, yeah, you make fun of the federal government a lot. Guilty.
But these are the things that
Yeah.
under normal circumstances, I mean, any one of you in chat could weigh on and weigh on this. Think about what your search history looks like. Any particular item that you're looking at, you could be just searching how to string a guitar. And if somebody died in the neighborhood from guitar strings, they might come looking at you, knocking on your door, go, well, you see, you got this interesting guitar strings. Let's give you a talk to. So, I mean,
Yeah.
and like Mo said, it's circumstantial. But whenever you've got multiple things, it's like, not only do you have, how do you string up a guitar? Well, how do you kill someone with guitar strings? And what's the best way to hang them? And how can you tie them up? Whenever all this stuff starts adding up, they go, we might want to look closer at this person.
Well, yeah, but here's the other thing. I mean, again, this is all mountains of information that they looked on. In our judicial system, as jacked up as we all know it is, you still have to have this document that goes through, hey, your honor, your judgeness, this is everything we think we have that points to this guy. Is it enough? And the judge might say, look, this is really compelling, but you do not have enough to overcome this hurdle. I will sign more search warrants, but right now you don't have enough.
Right. We're not bringing a case up against this person because all that you have is circumstantial evidence. I mean, just because this guy is doing a search, and it's a possibility. Hey, Dan, it's a possibility that the judge is going, I studied the same thing and I actually answered that questionnaire. You don't know where this is coming from, it might just be that, this is completely innocent behavior that happens all the time. But
Yeah.
there's also that, if there's enough arrows pointing in one direction, and sometimes, and I will say this, blatantly, sometimes people are looking at they find their person, and then they
Yes.
find all of the reasons why it should be pointing at the person, and they ignore a whole bunch of other evidence outside of it and say it has to be this person. And you can take that back all the way from the 50s, 60s, 40s. This is the kind of justice that would be given to people because, that's why I think our court system is as screwed up as it can be at times. It's still much better than what we had in the 50s, in the 60s, where someone, they weren't using as much fingerprinting. They weren't using DNA. They didn't have, you would mention DNA to somebody and they were like, what in the hell are you talking about? It's
Yeah.
just like this guy is AB positive and we found AB positive blood.
Yeah.
And we found a black hair in the mix, and this guy has black hair. That's the evidence that they would go by. We've actually gotten much more advanced since then, where it's like, yeah, but the black hair that you got was from a 60-year-old man, and this is his name because we got the DNA follicles off of it. So what are you talking
Yeah.
about? And the DNA happens to be your father. It's like, but you've arrested, Jim Bob down the street because he's the only one in the neighborhood that has black hair. And Jim Bob has an excuse because we have cell phone data that says he was at such and such location. These are the kinds of things where I think that our forensics have gotten much better. A court system, maybe not. It's debatable.
Yeah. But I mean, again, it's like I'm willing to entertain that this is a giant cluster F, but I
Yes.
need to have some evidence behind it. And that's where I'm looking at a competent investigation. I'm looking at all the leads they looked at. They, interviewed the guys from the grub truck.
Yes.
They looked at all of the, live stream that they did looking at weird people. They
Yeah.
talked to some of the weird people. They went over to, I think, the White's apartments and looked at all of them. They talked to, the people that hung out with all of them, the MLKCDFG that went to the different parties.
Yes.
So it's not like
They
they just looked at it and said, "Oh, he looks
he looks suspicious.
discomforting."
No,
Yeah.
it's one of those kinds of things where they're just like, first of all, you're looking at the people that are closest to them. They look at them. Can
Yeah.
you verify your whereabouts? It's just like everybody can verify all of their whereabouts. Well, we can eliminate that, and it's not like they just said, "Oh, I was at X, Y, and Z bar at such and such time." No, they got verification from multiple witnesses saying, "Yeah, I was actually hanging out with them that night." No, their alibi checks out. They eliminate these people off the list pretty quickly. That's why they look at the most common denominators. They're looking at ex-boyfriends that might have done this, any sort of beef that they had. They're looking at stalkers that might have been stalking them online or through Facebook or through Twitter or whatever thing. They've already eliminated all of these people. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to narrow their search down. Anything that looks suspicious, this is why they're doing those searches, those on-ground searches with people. Do you see something that looks suspicious? Why, this police officer steps into a parking lot and finds a glove laying there, and he notices it and he says, "I need to check this out." And come to find out, it's nothing because it wasn't there according to body cam 3 days prior. It was something that's probably fell out of someone's pocket. I mean, they're looking at all of this stuff in detail. It's not like they brought a case against, and that's the problem that people don't understand in this is whenever they're bringing a case against somebody, they have enough evidence that shows that there's no other suspects, that they've already gone through the evidence as much as they possibly can. This is why they set up those tip lines, because if you see something, notify us. It might have been that you were out walking your dog at 3 o'clock in the morning and you saw a 4'5" guy come walking past you, and he looked like he was covered in blood. Then all of a sudden that changes the dynamics of what that issue might be. They're looking for all this information, and so far all their information is pointing to this white Hyundai Elantra. It's owned by this one particular guy. That particular vehicle was in these areas at that point in time. So they've narrowed it down. Now what they have to do is gather this evidence.
Yes. Okay, let's see here. As part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cellular towers in close proximity to the Kings Road residence on November 13th, 2022, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. After determining that Kohberger was associated to both the 2015 white Elantra and the 8458 phone, investigators reviewed these search warrant returns. A query of the 8458 phone in those returns did not show the 8458 phone utilizing cell tower resources in close proximity to the Kings Road residence between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Now, and this is something that they have to put out there because a
Yes.
judge is going to say, well, okay, did you get cell phone data? So they have to be clear and and fair and say, hey, we looked, we didn't find any of this. Now the next paragraph is going to explain why they believe they didn't, but they have to be fair. They can't lie and say, look, we looked at the records, and we didn't see it there, but we're for sure that he was totally there.
Right. Because based on my training experience and conversations with law enforcement officers that specialize in utilization of cell tower records as part of the investigation, individuals can either leave their cell phone at a different location. Brady, how you doing? As part of the investigations, officials leave their cell phone at a different location before committing a crime or turn their cell phone off prior to going to a location to commit a crime. This is done by subjects in an effort to avoid alerting law enforcement a crime is committed. I also know that on numerous occasions, subjects will surveil an area where they intend to commit a crime prior to the date of the crime. Depending on the circumstances, this could be done a few days before or for several months prior to the commission of a crime. During these types of surveillance, it is possible that an individual would not leave their cell phone off at a separate location or turn it off since they don't plan on doing any bad shit. On December 23rd, 2022, I applied for, was granted a search warrant for historical phone records between November 12th, 2022 and at 12 o'clock a.m. and November 14th at 12 a.m. for the 8458 number held by the phone provided by AT&T, blah, blah, blah. On December 23rd, pursuant to that search warrant, I received records for that phone number. Those records indicated that that phone is subscribed to Bryan Kohberger at an address, and that the historical cell site located information for the 8458 number. After historical cell site location consulted with FBI special agent that is certified as member of the cellular analysis, members of that cellular analysis with the FBI got more information that's just too long to read. The field historical are required to pass extensive training, blah, 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 as well as it's just basically given his training. On November 13th, on approximately 2:42, the phone was utilizing cell resources that provided coverage to this area of Pullman, Washington. After Kohberger residents at approximately 2:47, the phone stops reporting to the network, which is consistent with either the phone is being in an area without cellular coverage, the connection to the network is disabled, such as putting the phone on airplane mode, or that the phone is turned off. At 8, the phone does not report to the network again until approximately 4:48 a.m., at which time the utilized cell resources provided coverage to the ID State Highway 95 south of Moscow. Between 4:50 a.m. and 5:26 a.m., the phone utilizes cell resources that are consistent with that phone number traveling south on State Highway 95 to Genesee, Idaho, then traveling west to Uniontown, Washington, and north back to Pullman, Washington. Approximately 5:30 in the morning, that phone is utilizing resources that provide coverage to Pullman, Washington, consistent with this phone traveling back to the Kohberger residence. That number's movements are consistent with the movements of a white Elantra that observed traveling north on Stadium Drive, doing all of the travel-y stuff.
Yes.
Further review indicates that that phone number utilized cell resources on November 13th are consistent with that phone leaving the area of Kohberger residence at approximately 9 a.m., traveling to Moscow. Specifically, that number utilized cell resources that would provide coverage to the King Road residence between 9:12 a.m. 9:21 a.m. That number phone next utilized cell resources that are consistent with that phone traveling back to the area of Kohberger residents, arriving to the area at approximately 9:32. Now, investigators found that that number did not connect to a cell phone tower that provides service to Moscow on the 14th, but investigators do not believe that that phone was in Moscow on that date. That phone has not connected to any towers that provide service to Moscow since that date. Based on my training experience, the facts investigation that far, I believe that Kohberger, the user of that phone, was likely the driver of the white Elantra that observed departing Pullman, and that this vehicle is likely suspect vehicle one. Additionally, the route of travel that phone during those early morning hours of the 13th and the lack of that phone reporting to the cell phone towers between those hours is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide that occurred at King Road residence. Kohberger would likely have information on how his cellular data can be utilized in criminal investigation as part of his studies.
Let's see. On December 23rd, 2022, I was granted a search warrant for Kohberger's historical or CSLI from June 23rd, 2022 to current. Prospective location information and a pen register trap trace on the 8458 phone to aid in efforts to determine if Kohberger had stalked any of the victims in this particular case prior to the offense, conducted surveillance on the Kings Road residence, or was in contact with any of the victims' associates before or after the alleged offenses. Any locations that may contain evidence of murders that occurred on November 13th, and the location of the white Elantra registered to Kohberger, as well as the location of Kohberger. On December 23rd, 2022, pursuant to that search warrant, I received historical records for that number from AT&T from the time the account was opened in June 2022. After consulting with the CAST special agent, I was able to determine estimated locations for that number from June 2022 to present, the time period authorized by the court. And again, also, the court is only giving search warrants out for what they're asking for. So it's not like the police can go in and say, I need all his records. He's a real perv.
Yeah.
No,
No.
they have to go in and say, we are looking for this particular time period. They have to be very precise. They can't just say from whenever to whenever, YOLO.
Yeah, no, it's not one of those. Whenever law enforcement are looking for these things, they're being very specific. They have to be very specific, or else the judge is probably going to deny it. And
Yes.
because the judge will say, "Listen, you're stepping on this guy's First Amendment rights, and we're not going to allow this." It's just like you're on a fishing expedition, but they're coming back with very specific times, very specific dates, and very specific things that they're looking for: the who, what, why,
Yes.
when, and where. It's not like they're saying, I need all the cell phone data from every single phone over this period of time, because the judge would just be like, you're out of your
No.
freaking mind. That's not how this works. And these officers know it. They just say, this number, this time, between these dates.
Yes.
That's it.
And then when that turned up they then had to write another search warrant that said, hey, we have this information. A search warrant a lot like this one had to be provided, and they had to say, Your Honor, based on my information, sometimes criminals stalk their victims. And then the judge has to weigh, hey, they've got this hunch, they've got all this, information. Is there enough to, say that they can violate this, citizen's rights?
Probable cause.
Yes.
And it's the same way as with an officer searching your car. You don't have to allow somebody to search your car. Police officer, you can say, no, you can't search my car. Now, if they happen to see like a pill bottle laid in the front seat, they can contact a judge. There's judges that are available 24/7. They can say, Judge, we have probable cause. We believe that this person is transporting drugs. And at that point, they get a search warrant to search your car. But they have to be very specific at it. They can say, we got, and I'm just using this example, we got a search warrant to search the front of your car. Everything from the front forward. And if they find absolutely nothing, that's as far as they go. If they find something in the trunk, for example, and that search warrant wasn't part of the trunk search, anything that they use in that can't be admissible in court unless they have probable cause. They would have to contact the judge again and say, hey, I need this X, Y, and Z.
Well, yeah, even to the point that they can see, hey, we did a search warrant for, let's say, computers, and they can see, hey, he has, force multiplier parts all over the place. Well, they need to call someone and say, hey, we've gotten in here, we have a very specific search warrant for this, but we have found this. Can you please write up a search warrant so we can secure this?
Right.
So it's not carte blanche to just run in there and look. You generally have to be very specific in what you're looking for, to the point that, like I said, if you did find something else that was, incriminating and it wasn't listed on your search warrant, you would need to say, hey, based on my criminal investigation abilities, these nunchucks,
Well, and no, it would be as simple as having a search, and say, for example, someone had a search warrant on my house. They received a search warrant to obtain all computer devices involved in a crime. And they come in and they find all these pew-pews scattered throughout the house. And they're just like, whoa, this guy has a lot of firearms. We need to get someone in here. We need to expand our search warrant. We came in here looking for a possibility that this person had deleted somebody and the
yeah,
information was on their computer. But now we're seeing all these knives and guns and swords and rifles. We need to expand our search warrant. Let's get in touch with the judge. Don't touch anything right now because our search
yeah,
warrant was limited to his electronic devices. And I see some blood on that sword over there. We need to inspect that. So we need to get like some forensics down here. Let's expand this out to the whole thing.
yes,
And a police officer knows this. A seasoned police officer is going to know this because they've been in that situation where they pull someone over and that person is as high as a kite. And they go, listen, have you done anything? And they go, no, officer, I ain't done shit. You can't do
yeah,
nothing to me. And he was like, listen, we're giving you a stop. We're going to check for DUI. Okay. Now, if that person gives them a hard time, there's a possibility that they find out that this guy is dealing drugs. He's got a whole trunk full of drugs back there. But if they search his trunk without probable cause, they're screwed.
yeah,
It's just like this guy was acting sketchy. He pulled a pistol out on me. And so whenever we handcuffed him, we knocked open the trunk and we saw drugs in there. Who knows what it might be? Just saying. There's certain things that they can get away with.
yes. Let's see. The records for that particular phone show that that phone was utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to the area of 1122 King Road on at least 12 occasions prior to November 13th,
12?
2022. It said, yeah.
So that is like stalker level of shit right there.
Yeah. I mean, and yes and no, because there could have been someone that he was going over to see. I mean, these are fairly close college communities. So
Right.
by itself, it's not sketchy, but pair it with the fact that the white Hyundai was found, fleeing the scene at high speeds. These are all little pieces that kind of Lego together to build the case.
Well, and they could have asked him, so who were you seeing over there? And he could have been like, oh, I don't know. I was just driving around. Okay, this is a closed community. It's very cut off. There's no cut through. I lived on a house where if you saw someone driving through there, you're just like, there's no way out of here. There's no reason for you to be here. There's a million other ways you could go. This is such a cut off neighborhood. If you see a car out there, you're usually walking out there going, what are you doing in my neighborhood?
Can I help you?
Can I help you? A lot of times it would just be like, oh, I'm freaking lost.
Yeah, I am
And
flipping
then,
flapjack lost. Like,
and then you can go, oh, what address are you looking for? And they'll usually say, I'm looking for
Yeah,
X, Y, or Z address. Oh, that's over there. Just go down here, turn left, and you'll hit that address. It would be uncommon for that to happen, but it wasn't like one of these main thoroughfares where you'd see cars going by every day. I mean, you're lucky outside of the people that lived in that neighborhood, you might see like a strange car once a month. But if you see a strange car once a month that comes through there, 20 times a day, you're just like, wait, what is this person doing?
yeah. Let's see here. was,
Sorry.
oh, that's okay. 12 occasions prior to November 13th, 2022. Now, all of these occasions, except for one, occurred late into the evening or in the early morning hours of their respective days. One of these occasions, on August 21st, 2022, the number utilized cellular resources providing coverage for the Kings Road residents from approximately 12:34 p.m. to 11:35 p.m. At approximately 11:37 p.m., Kohberger was stopped by Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Corporal Duke, as mentioned above. Now, the phone was utilizing cellular resources consistent with the location of the traffic stop during this time, so between Farm Road and Pullman Highway. Further analysis of cellular data provided shows that that phone utilized cellular resources on November 13th, 2022, consistent with the phone traveling away from Pullman, Washington to Lewiston, Idaho via US Highway 195 at approximately 12:36 p.m. The cellular phone resources that would provide coverage to Kate's Cup of Joe coffee stand located at Clarkson, Washington. Now, surveillance footage from the U.S. Chef store located in Clarkson, Washington, adjacent to Kate's Cup of Joe, showed a white Elantra consistent with suspect vehicle 1 drive past that Kate's Cup of Joe at the time consistent with the cellular data. So they're not just relying on the cellular data, they are corroborating that that cell phone is also in the car.
Well, and that it makes me wonder, you know, and I'm just pondering, nothing meant by this, no proof of anything. But if he didn't have multiple victims that he was looking at, that he wasn't looking at multiple locations to commit a crime, and some of them just he was just like, I can't commit this crime here. There's a possibility that he was stalking out different places.
If he was fishing out different locations, if this was a favorite. And this would be the things that if he were ever to open up, or if we can learn it from his, historical cell phone data, see where else his kind of late night, wanderings kind of clustered.
Right.
That might be something that look into, because it does seem like he was doing a lot of kind of scouting. I wouldn't say stalking, maybe not a particular person, but maybe a particular location.
Right. He might have been looking in different locations at multiple different times of the day. We don't know this. I mean, without him talking about it, you're never going to find out. I mean, there's a possibility he can come back and say, I was looking at different places at different points, and this place just looked like it was too secure. I didn't see an easy way in or an easy way out. This looked like one of the easier places to get to. It's about,
let's see, at approximately
11. Are you good on time? I just want to make sure you're good on time. That's all.
Yeah, actually, we might stop here for the evening and then bring this up. Let me be sure to write down which page we're actually on, because,
there's a lot. There's a lot of this information.
Yeah, and this is the warrant. So they're putting out all this information. And again, this is so much better than the warrant from the Richard Allen case. I mean, if you want to look at a case that, seems hinky from the jump, that's a case that I can point you to that I find hinky from the jump. But just looking at these documents, I'm not finding anything.
No, all of their work seems to be so much on the up and up of everything that they've done to this point. I'm not, and whenever I hear people sitting there going, well, how can you believe he did? It's just like, have you not seen any of this information? Maybe before you open up, what do they call that? A cock holster. Before you open that thing up and you go slapping those jaws and making a fool of yourself, maybe look at what evidence that they had against him. and see if it cooperates with the evidence that you have that he did do it. And
Yeah.
not just pure speculation, but being able to look at it and say, hey, look at these kinds of things objectively. Is it possible that he did this? Well, we know that he admitted to doing this. He pled
Yes.
guilty. Whether you like that or not, this is something that he did of his own volition, because it's not like he just walked in there and said, "Oh, I did this, and let's end the case." No, there's a process that a judge has to go through, that he has to sit there, and the prosecution, the defense attorney have to all sit down. They have to have this communication and say, what do we see here? And you're saying without a reasonable doubt that you committed this. And he says, yes.
Well, yeah.
He agreed to the terms of what's going to happen to him, the outcome that's going to happen, because he pled guilty. It's not like he said, "Oh, I'm pleading guilty because, my hands are tied behind me," because the judge gave him plenty of opportunity to say, are you doing this of your own volition? Are you being coerced? Are you being threatened? These are questions that a judge asks. Dig into your shit a little bit more before you start saying, this guy's innocent. I don't care if he pled guilty. Look into the actual court case itself. Dig into it deeper, even deeper than Mo has dug into this, because Mo's dug into this much deeper than I have.
And I did have to pin it because I bought it when I was a bit fluffier. So, but if you buy it, it's the Screwed Yourself Sideways with a Cactus shirt.
Oh, I love that.
So
Prickly.
definitely. And on even more levels of self-deprecating grifting, I fixed this. So
It's
here
your
we go.
girl Mo stumbling to 6K. Snark on parade in the most awkward way. Not glamorous, not slick, just petty with a mic. Grifted one sub at
I love you guys. Thank you for coming by.
Bye,
We
you guys.
appreciate all of you.
Bye.
Thanks.